At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
The PC gave us computing power at home, the internet connected us, and mobile let us do it pretty much anywhere. Now generative AI lets us communicate with technology in our own language using our own senses. But figuring it all out when you're living through it is a totally different story. Welcome to Leading the Shift, a new podcast from Microsoft Azure. I'm your host, Susan Ettlinger. In each episode, leaders will share what they're learning to help you navigate all this change with confidence. Please join us. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 187, Toy Story 4. Well, here it is.
Welcome to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey guys, welcome to the Animation Addicts podcast. I am Chelsea Robson.
I'm Morgan Stradling.
Hey, howdy, hey, I'm Mason Smith. I'm a yo-yo.
Hey. Oh, we're excited to be here. Today we are going to be talking about Toy Story 4.
Woo!
A lot of people have been really excited about this. We've got several reviews. We have several voicemails at the end of the episode. We've got lots of things coming up. So this is exciting.
Yeah. So before we get started in our review with Toy Story 4, let's get a little mini review of Toy Story 3 from Mason, because Mason hasn't been on the podcast for a while. Chelsea and I did record that in episode 169, so you can check out our review there. It's a lot of fun.
I wasn't there for Toy Story 3?
You were not.
No, it was last, or I guess it was 2 years ago.
That was
yeah.
right. That was the last real episode we did before we went on hiatus.
Before
Aw.
she and I went on hiatus, yeah.
There were several hiati.
Yes.
Yeah, so Toy
You need
Story
breaks.
3, Woody is still desperate to hang on to Andy and be there for him, but Andy is going off to college, and the toys are mistakenly dumped at a donation box in a daycare instead of going into storage, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And so Woody wants to go into storage so that when Andy needs them again, they'll be there. But he needs to read the writing on the walls. Like, Andy doesn't need them anymore. They probably need to move on. And so we kind of go into this it's this interesting story about how the toys are trying to find their place in this new daycare facility, it's a little more complicated because there is an established hierarchy of toys that already have a system in place. And so there's a lot of hijinks that ensue with that. So Toy Story 3 ends with what I believe was the perfect ending for the Toy Story saga. I'm fine with shorts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with those. But as far as the main movies go, I consider Toy Story to be a trilogy. And prepare yourselves now, animation fans, because this is going to be one of those episodes where I'm not super excited about the subject matter. Anyway, I have opinions about this film. The chief one being that it didn't need to happen. That doesn't mean it was a bad film. Doesn't mean I hate it, and that doesn't mean I'm a terrible person. It's just It was a hard sell for me.
You're not a terrible person.
It was a hard sell for me. I did not see it in theaters. I just saw it like a little while ago on Disney Plus.
Well, there you go.
Because you can't watch anything Disney now without Disney Plus. We can do DVR.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Everyone, Bonnie made a friend in class.
Oh, she's already making friends.
No, she literally made a new friend. I want you to meet Forky.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Ah! He's a spork. Yes, yeah, I know. Forky is the most important toy to Bonnie right now. We all have to make sure nothing happens to him.
Woody, we have a situation.
I am not a toy. I was made for soup, salad, maybe chili, and then the trash.
Buzz, we've got to get Forky.
Affirmative.
Why am I alive? You're Bonnie's toy. You are going to help create happy memories that will last for the rest of her life.
Huh? What?
Oh, yeah. Bo? Forky, come on. Bo?
Bo? Hi there. My name is Gabby.
We can't stay.
Yes, you can. Boys. Woody, behind you!
Bo! What are you doing here?
No time to explain. Come with me.
We need to get back to our kid.
Aw, Sheriff Woody, always coming to the rescue.
Bonnie needs Forky.
Woody, who needs a kid's room when you can have all of this?
Wow. Woody, aren't we going to Bonnie?
What do we do, Buzz?
What would Woody do?
Jump out of a moving vehicle?
Let's go!
Hey, you gotta go.
If you should ever leave me.
You know, you've handled this lost toy life better than I could.
Open your eyes, Woody. There's plenty of kids out there. Sometimes change can be good.
You can't teach this old toy new tricks.
You'd be surprised.
Bonnie? We're going home, Forky.
God only knows.
Bonnie, I'm coming!
On my way, Woody!
To infinity and beyond!
Don't let Woody leave. Kids lose their toys every day.
I was made to help a child. I don't remember it being this hard.
Woody, somebody's whispering in your ear. Everything's gonna be okay.
God only knows what I'd be without.
So Toy Story 4 has a 97% approval rating
Holy
on
cow.
Rotten Tomatoes. Looking at the other films, Toy Story has 100% approval rating, Toy Story 2 100%, and Toy Story 3 98%. So this, in theory, is the worst reviewed of the bunch, but only by, 1 to 3% if you're comparing it to the first one or other ones. It's still very, very high up there.
Technically the worst Toy Story movie.
And it had the most reviews. It had 438 reviews because over time, Rotten Tomatoes has increased the number of reviewers that they allow to be Rotten Tomato Meter approved critics. So, I think as there's like hundreds now versus just like a handful of reviewers, we will see less and less 100% because Toy Story only had 89 reviews. So smaller sample size, but nonetheless, overall, everyone loved this film. And we will talk about our thoughts because, I'm not going to tell you what side of the aisle I am on quite yet.
Oh.
But let's jump into some facts about this film. Obviously, this is Pixar Animation Studios. This was directed by Josh Cooley, who you might know from Riley's First Date, the short from Inside Out or about Inside Out, George and AJ, and then previously he was a storyboard artist starting with Cars and then kind of worked his way in the storyboard department, and George and AJ was really his first directing role. So pretty crazy considering previous directors of the Toy Story films were John Lasseter, and so
he was on this up until
they had yes. Yeah, because that happened in December 2018 when he was ousted, basically, or went on his sabbatical, and then 6 months later he was gone. And so, obviously, it's actually interesting that he's not even listed as a director.
He's
wasn't
credited
necessarily
for
a director.
Original story by, I think, or
but
original
even if you
story
were a
idea
partial
by.
director, you would still be listed as a director, wouldn't you?
I don't know how these things work.
Yeah, I don't.
Because I think of Brave with Brenda Chapman. She's listed as a director. So, I mean, she was ousted, but she's still listed as a director. And then story and screenplay. So maybe Lasseter was not actually involved in a directing capacity for this one. I wouldn't imagine, because at the time he was the chief creative officer of Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar Animation Studios. So, basically over all of Disney's studios at that point. So I don't imagine that he would have had much time at all to take on a directing role just because of the scale of everything that he was doing. But, actually looking on Wikipedia, it shows that Lasseter was actually directing the film at D23 Expo. In July 2017, he announced that he was stepping down and leaving Cooley as the sole director, saying that he no longer could commit to directing the film between his positions at Pixar, Walt Disney Animation Studios, and Disney Toon Studios. So yes, he had a lot on his plate at this time, obviously being in charge of so much. And even though he really had big ambitions to direct this, it wasn't possible at the time. And I will also correct an earlier statement. So the other films were... So the original two films were directed by John Lasseter, and the third film was by Lee Unkrich, who was the editor of the first Toy Story film. So very much it was in the same family for the trilogy. It was the same writing team, the same editing team, and that brain trust was very much involved. And here we go with Toy Story 4, and it's someone newer or not necessarily involved in the original three. Josh Cooley took it over. It was released June 21st, 2019, budget $200 million, and the box office was $1.073 billion. It barely inched over that $1 billion line, which everyone loves to see if you are working for the studios. 2019 was a great year for film. 2020, not so much.
So much.
Do you think we'll see a film that makes $1 billion in 2020?
Yes, because there's only going to be one film released at this point, and everyone's going to be so desperate. That's the only one they're going to see.
So
I really want to see Tenet.
Yeah, Tenet is going to be released in theaters. I'm like, are you kidding? Just put it on a streaming channel.
I'm desperate. I will go. So yeah, why not?
Wear your full
wear
radiation
my mask,
suit.
Socially distance. Yeah, why not? As long as I can just go see a movie and eat some popcorn and smell that delicious popcorn smell and whatever other smells they have.
Watch the preview. Watch the preview show to the previews that's sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And then they give you the propaganda for Coca-Cola, which is like this giant screen of ice filling a glass and the Coke filling it. Do y'all ever get that? I don't know.
Yes, yeah, we do.
We are making you very thirsty. Oh, the theater experience. Shannon and I were trying to figure out the last movie we went and saw in theaters, and we couldn't remember. Well, we're not big theater goers in the first place, I guess, but we couldn't remember what it was.
Well, the next time you do go, it will be very memorable, I imagine. But I didn't see this one in theaters. I did see this one.
I know I saw Sonic in theaters.
Oh, you saw it? How was it?
Nice.
I liked it, yeah. I would definitely wait for Sonic the Hedgehog or the number 2 with Tails, because Tails will be in it.
That's right.
Ooh,
Tails and Knuckles.
Fancy.
So am I right in saying that this went through a lot of reshoots and rewrites? Because it wasn't Rashida Jones one of the originators of the story for this film? She was like involved in it somehow. She was like one of the writers.
I noticed that she was a writer, but I don't necessarily know the backstory per se of this one. I didn't really research.
I think
too much.
she and some other story writers left the project and they did a bunch of rewrites or something like that. I don't know.
Sounds plausible.
One thing I will say about it is that this is a toy story. Like, we've got a story here, like weaving, interlocking plots and twists. And it wasn't a huge twist, but it's a little complicated. I would say this is one of the darker Toy Story films.
Oh, yes.
It is not as happy-go-lucky.
My kids do not really enjoy watching this one. As soon as they hit the antique store, you turn it off. They just lose interest. They don't like watching it. They kind of get a little scared. And so we actually watched the whole thing. We skipped over just a few scenes of the mannequin puppets,
oh my gosh,
whatever, the
ventriloquist
ventriloquist dummies.
Yeah, those guys.
But we watched the end. He's like, Mom, I've never seen this part before. I'm like, yeah, this is the one movie that you really do not care to watch. And
but your kid powered through it.
This was touted as the Toy Story love story. So everyone always kind of assumed that it was going to be Woody and Bo Peep, and they were going to go back in time, and we are going to see that love story there. And they did. And I think the strongest parts of the film are when they are toys just being toys, doing toy things in like Andy or Bonnie's room.
Oh, okay.
The opening is so strong and really emotional. And you get to see them rescuing RC.
Oh, RC.
And everyone coming together to save him. It's great. And then it ends on this note. I'm like, Pixar, you do it again. And there's 3 different times in this movie where I just really get choked up in my throat every single time. But when
there's a lot of big conflicts introduced.
The recap at the beginning is the only place where I actually like, you're doing this again.
They know how to do a montage with that darn "You Got a Friend in Me" song.
Oh, yeah, they hit you with the "You Got a Friend in Me."
We need them to cry. Just pump in "You Got a Friend in Me" and a montage of Andy growing up playing with his toys. And every kid who ever had a toy growing up is now going to tear up.
I don't know. They changed up Andy's design, though. They ditched the clamshell eyes from the first movies.
Right.
And now he looks real.
They turned him into kind of a, not preteen, but I feel like this was one of the last moments that Andy was really a kid playing with his toys. Because you can tell he's probably 10-ish and he's older, but he still has that whimsical childhood joy of playing with his toys, and it's so fun. And of course, it dovetails right into the end of Toy Story 3, the perfect ending to the trilogy, where he's handing him off to Bonnie, and then we see them kind of play with Bonnie. And the worst part about this whole sequence, like I tear up, I get sad, I cry, and then I see Bonnie's darn Sharpie on his boot.
Oh, yes.
And it lights a fire in me. I'm okay with her, marking her territory. But the problem is I bought my son a Toy Story Woody doll, the Signature Collection, which is supposed to be like, totally film. Yeah. And it says Bonnie on the foot. And I'm like, no.
What? It's supposed to say Whitney.
So I need to get some paint, like the guy from, like Jerry from Toy Story 2,
Jerry
and paint it over. So, anyways,
it's for display only.
I get a bit ranty on this film in case you can't
Sorry,
tell.
if you're looking for good vibes only, hashtag good vibes only on this episode.
You're probably not going to get it.
You're going to have a bad time. Now, there's parts of this film that I really like, but there was a major hurdle that I had to overcome, which was the fact that they made a film after Toy Story 3. Which this is just the guy. This is just the fan. I thought was the perfect ending, and I am a fan of things that actually end. I'm not one of these fanboys that like constantly needs to see new rehashes of stuff that I love, because I can always go back to the old stuff and watch it. Now, Godzilla is a completely different thing. You make a Godzilla movie in 2020, I'm going to be super happy. But Godzilla versus King Kong next year, it's happening. But there's a lot of stuff where it's like, I play a lot of video games. If there's a game I really like, I don't need to see a reboot or a remake or a sequel. I can just go back and play it. And there's like, I look forward to showing my child the Toy Story series when she's old enough to appreciate it. Toy Story 4 might be omitted. Frozen's going to be omitted. We're going to try to go as far as long as we can with our child not knowing that Frozen exists. We're going to replace with Tangled, something of higher quality, in my opinion. But
I've tried that, and they
find it. They go to a friend's house.
They love
they see a
Frozen. It's the
backpack.
magic snow.
Oh yeah, that's
My
right.
kid- yeah.
Hey, there's no snow
Anyway.
in where y'all are living, so it's like a completely new thing.
What is this?
Yeah. So I don't know about.
Sorcery.
I was afraid of the. I was a little put off by the Toy Story love story concept that I saw like in the trailers and stuff. Didn't really look like a love story, as we see that Bo Peep undergoes some changes personality wise. But thankfully, there are other threads to this film that are interesting and that kind of interweave and tell a larger story. So it's not just this love story. And this whole thing revolves around a single character who basically causes everything. Well, Woody causes everything because of his insecurities, like Wreck-It Ralph 2 style. But we are introduced to this character that we saw in the previews. I was like, how are they going to make this guy work? And we are introduced to Forky. Forky. Okay, perfect voice actor for him. Buster.
Yes.
Hello,
Buster.
brother.
Hi, brother. It really
I didn't
was.
even realize I never made
Oh,
that connection.
Really?
It's like
That's
water.
the
with a
only
smack
thing
of
I
half.
noticed on.
Oh, that's great.
Freaking love that kid. And he always kind of plays the same like little clueless dude, little clueless wormy guy. But yes, Woody, in an act of defiance, so he defies the boss of Bonnie's room. Woody is Woody is already struggling with not being the boss of the room. As we saw in Toy Story 1, he really likes to be in charge. He likes the world the way it is. And so he defies protocol.
He's a dictator.
Yeah, he's an evil dictator. He defies protocol and sneaks in. Woody progressively pushes the envelope time and time again in this film. If there was ever a moment where humans discovered that toys could come to life, it would be during this film, because Woody puts himself at risk so many times in this film. I'm like, whoa, pal, hang on a minute. But anyway, he sneaks into her backpack, and through him, she gets to experience this new comfort in Forky, which was like the one bright moment in her first day at kindergarten. So she is loving a new toy through Woody, which is enough for him, but it is a very unhealthy thing because he introduced Forky into the world. I'm not a fan of Forky. Sorry, everyone.
Don't be sorry. I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of him either.
Do any of us like Forky?
No, Forky is the worst part of this film. The film
No,
drags.
I'm not gonna say Forky is the worst part. I'm holding out for that one.
Okay,
but he's one of the worst parts. As soon as he's introduced, it's just weird, and he's inorganic. Obviously, he's made of trash, and I just don't like. There's multiple times during this movie where conflicts are presented, such as I am trash, right? That is his identity. That is what he relates to.
Okay.
And then they are very, very, very quickly resolved. And so he jumps out of the RV, probably 15 minutes later in the movie time, not movie time, but in our time. And then they have this walk back to the RV. And then suddenly all of these identity issues are solved because he had a good old fashioned talk with Woody.
It's interesting.
And he's accepted that he's a toy. And I'm like, I don't buy it.
He gets over his existential crisis. Like he
very quickly.
He stops staring into the abyss very quickly.
Yes, because they don't want to focus on Forky per se and his character and his development beyond that. I mean, that's not the point. We need to get to Bo Peep.
This is
so they resolve it, but they get him, but he's still attached to Bonnie and gets kind of lost and disconnected from her. And so that's why he's still relevant in the plot, because we have to keep saving him.
There's a lot to keep track of.
And that introduces us to Bo Peep. Again.
Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of. There's the Bo Peep story arc, there's the Gabby story arc, there's the Forky story arc, and then there's Woody's relationship to the other toys. You know what I think is so the ending I'll talk about the ending, but
we can so just time out, Mason.
Sure.
We have not been going chronologically when we review. We just kind of like free flow
That's good. I like it. It feels good.
So if you want to talk about the end, go for it.
So there's this part. There's the ending where, in a twist, Woody decides to stay with Bo Peep in the wild, and just travel around and be a nomad. And
Be a
he
carny.
leaves the other toys
He's
behind.
a carny.
And he's a carny now. What a life. And it's like, to me, I was like, this does not resonate with me because in this film, Woody spent like 10 minutes with the rest of the gang and then he was off doing something like kind of
Right.
selfish. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like,
Yeah.
hey, I know I haven't been around like the past like 36 hours, but I'm going with Bo Peep. Oh, by the way, here's Bo Peep. Like, it just didn't work for me. And there's a lot of stuff about this film that just seems a little big. Like the gang is still there and it's kind of inflated. Like Don Rickles had passed away before they finished the film or before they even needed his lines for the film. So they just used voice lines from the previous films that they had recorded. And I think that's a really weird concept now. Kind of like Princess Leia in the Rise of
The Force
Skywalker, where she didn't really record much footage for it, so they kind of cobbled together a bunch of footage. I was like, man, that's so weird. How would you like to be a relative of that person and see their reanimated selves in this film after they had passed away? And it's like, I think that Don Rickles' family were
Guess
happy
we
to
didn't
have
actually
him.
need you after all.
Yeah, I think that Don Rickles' family was happy to have him in the film, like posthumously, but I don't know. I still thought it was weird. And like every toy, all the other toys like Rex, Slink, even Jesse, and to some extent Buzz Lightyear, they're just kind of like there.
Yeah.
And they say like one line each, and it's like, oh, okay, there's Slink. He says his whatever he said. I forget what his catchphrase is. And then Rex says something paranoid and anxious, and then Jesse says something energetic, and that's it. And then there's no aliens. What happened to the aliens? Did they get thrown into the dump in the third one?
No, they came back, but I guess we didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters that aren't really there anymore and stuff, and so it's fine. They have the freedom to introduce new characters, and I happen to like some of the new characters, but I don't know. I feel like the scope could have been a lot smaller, even though it kind of was, but it kind of wasn't because they were like, oh, we got to have these characters. Remember these guys? But anyway,
well, because they've created this huge cast of characters that are favorites and great merchandise.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
the
so you got
merchandise.
to keep them relevant. And give you a line or two.
And I think what was his name? Sergeant whatever his face was. He was in a bunch of movies, but he played Sarge from
Combat Carl?
No, Combat Carl, voiced by Carl Weathers. Great choice. He's in this film. He's from one of the shorts.
There's 3 of them.
Yeah, that's right. They are. No, the Green Army men weren't there, even though they were like, they're in some of the posters, which I think is funny. So anyway, yeah, the ending was like, okay, like due to Woody's selfishness, he doesn't really spend much time with the toys that he has fought so hard to protect and keep together.
Right.
Now the story of a bunch of toys who lost everything and the one cowboy doll who had to keep them all together. It's Woody's Arrested Development.
Yes.
Ta-da.
Woody's entire identity is just tied to like making a child happy. And it has been for 25 years at this
Man,
point?
the guy
Who
deserves a
knows?
vacation. Have you ever noticed that Woody is always on edge and always freaking out about something?
Yeah. He's just type A alpha, always has to be in charge, and he has
Oh,
lost his
man.
control in this new Bonnie's
He
life.
has
and so
lost
he's
control.
trying
He
to
is
gain
thrust
it back.
into a new world that he does not understand.
Yeah. So like, we spend this whole movie of him trying to, do the best thing for Bonnie, and then very quickly, like you say, they just kind of wrap it up like, oh well, I'm just gonna stay with Bo Peep because I love her. And
I love you.
I'm all about being there for a kid. That's the whole purpose in all 3 of movies. Like your whole purpose as a toy is to be there for a kid. And he particularly has the viewpoint of it's for one kid, like an owner. And Bo Peep
He's
has shifted to
monogamous.
this other. Yeah, and she is more like free for all. Like whatever kid comes around, it's great. And so they have these 2 different viewpoints, and they're always kind of butting heads, but you can tell they love each other. And like she's always kind of defending him to Giggle McDimples.
Sure.
And eventually he just comes around to Bo Peep's side and joins her. And I don't think Woody's going to be happy.
I don't know. His whole thing at the end is that he and Bo Peep work to help toys connect with children. So there are toys that are in these.
They're like-
it's an interesting concept because
They're like an adoption agency.
yeah, that's a great way to put it. The toys in the amusement park amusement areas are not meant to be won. They're meant to entice kids to get their parents to spend money on games that they can never win through skill or chance because they're rigged against them because it's a carnival, and carnies do that. So
Sorry
they
to burst your bubble. This is
Sorry.
the carny way.
Yeah, and if you send us a voicemail arguing with us that that you one time won a carnival game, you're a liar. Unless it was the shoot 'em up carnival games at Walt Disney World, where they do the Toy Story. You know that one?
Yeah.
Where they like throw pies at stuff.
Perfect tie-in. This movie, it was like the
that's
Disney
right.
parks, which Velociter was over Pixar Pier, said, hey, we already have this carnival land.
Yeah.
Let's think of a carnival
That's right.
storyline.
That's right. And so they help the toys who otherwise would never be won by the children. They help them to get connected with the children. So in a way, he is like carrying on his mission of forming and maintaining that strong bond between toy and child, you know. But there were some interesting parts to this film, but Forky was not one of them. I feel like every time Forky showed up, he was just this frustrating part that put a stop on the flow of the sequence and the scene that was happening.
Yeah. So can we talk about the villain per se?
I
Gabby
hate her.
Gabby, voiced by Christina Hendricks, who is a great actress.
Oh yes.
Yeah. No.
Great voice.
Yes. All props go. I
Chelsea,
hate
what do you have
character.
against Christina Hendricks? Why do you hate her? This just in, Chelsea Robson of the Rotoscopers has personal beef with Christina Hendricks.
I don't.
Challenges her
I
to
just-
boxing match.
And
Vows
she
to drink her
loses.
blood.
Oh no. Gabby, the whole issue that I have with
She
her
is creepy.
she's creepy and she gives off major mean girl vibes
Oh,
that I have issues with.
superficial. Something
So this is a Chelsea problem.
underlying
be.
sinister.
It could be. But also like her whole arc, the fact that they help her find a kid at that point. I'm like, girlfriend, she's still gonna be creepy. She's just like taking Mao and putting him in a different country and saying, hey, it'll be different this time, right?
Whoa.
No.
That's good. Yeah, the fact that Woody submits to her proposal that he gets his voice box ripped out and donated to her, like that's so creepy. That's so weird.
It's okay.
Why are you making
bad.
kids
So I-
watch
I-
this?
Yes.
I
Morgan,
have thoughts
why?
about this. So this was probably one of the most frustrating parts of the movie to me because it's kind of this, you have what I want and I don't have it, so I deserve it.
And
You need to give it to me.
You see how she completely manipulates Woody? Like he hits him in all hits him in all
Yes.
the right spots and uses his experience against him and like pulls at his heartstrings. And it's not
She's grooming him.
Yes.
That's
right.
bad, but
And she learns all she can
All
about
the
Woody
bad
from Forky
things.
for the purpose of manipulating him, which I think is just so rotten.
well, so here's the problem. It almost feels that yes, ultimately he's the one who chooses to give the voice box to her, but just the way that she manipulates him about the way that she manipulates him, it doesn't feel like it's his choice.
No.
And it ultimately doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. So that's what's even more frustrating about it is that Woody had to give up something that was so integral to himself because you have what I want, therefore give it to me. And I would have been totally more on board with it if Woody would have come to this idea from his own thinking. If he would have realized, wow, she has this and I'm going to be charitable and give it to her.
Right.
And done it of his own accord versus being manipulated to basically give an organ away. That's something that now he will never get back again unless he has a future owner who finds a voice box on eBay.
And the signals,
which isn't going to happen.
The signals that are being sent with her whole story is that she needs to be perfect before a child will accept her.
Yeah.
And she
really
learns
don't
that
like
the
that
hard
either.
way. She learns that the hard way with the redhead.
Melody.
Harmony. I laughed when she was like,
Harmony.
and she just throws her in the box. Like, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's great.
I laughed. And so I was like, oh, okay. So she'll find a kid who doesn't care. She'll give her voice box back to Woody because that was wrong. She will right her wrong, and then she will find a kid who doesn't need a perfect toy. But no, they use her she used the organ that she manipulated Woody into giving to save a lost kid. Like, that's sweet and all. Like, the sentiment is sweet and all, but it just didn't.
It was weird.
Fit. It just didn't fit. Like, I don't know what the payoff was.
It would have been so much better if she would have still been loved by that same girl at the end without a voice box.
Yeah.
And she realized she didn't need that in the end to make her complete. So here she got what she wanted. Harmony wasn't ultimately the girl for her, but still she got what she wanted. She now has a voice box. Woody doesn't. And now she has a new owner. And I think it just would have been so much more of a better moral and lesson and just payoff if she came to the conclusion that she didn't need it and then continues to, seek out a kid anyway, and then gets what she wants, which is ultimately a kid. She's ultimately looking for a kid. She's not looking for a voice box.
Yeah.
She's looking for a kid, And so I just have always really struggled with this movie, particularly for that plot line.
Yes.
It's always bothered me every single time that I watch it. And I've talked to others and people are like, yeah, I don't really see that. I'm like, that's cool.
I see it.
But it affected me.
That's interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, Forky. So there's major set pieces that we kind of go through. And one of them, the major one, of course, is the antique shop. The antique shop is like this, like, wonderland where if you look in the background, you will always see some prop from some other Pixar film, that you can geek out about. Right. And I think I read about that they were like, ooh, how are we going to fill up this antique shop? And they're like, well, don't we have a bunch of old stuff lying around in the studio? It's just digitized. Yeah. So, connect all the pipeline together and let's route these old assets from old Pixar films. Like, everything is in there. There's stuff from Ratatouille. There's a barracuda that's stuffed and mounted to the wall from Finding Nemo. There's, I think, Tin Toy is in this film.
Yeah.
In the pinball machine.
Kind of has a speaking role.
Yeah, he kind of has a speaking role. And like all sorts of props. Of course, Luxo Jr. and of course the ball and stuff like that. So it's just this like wonderland of discarded assets and stuff. And man, you got to hand it to the technical wizards over at Render who do all the RenderMan stuff, like from the rain effects to like the dust to the materials and stuff. I was watching this film and I was like, man, there was someone working at Pixar who just wrote the shader for the paint on this block of wood in the background. Like, I know they got some of that stuff just lying around from other films, but man, the kind of work that goes into all the details, and that's something that I do have to credit this film for, is the attention to detail as far as world building. Like, man, it is a believable antique shop. Apparently, the shot where the light is going through all the light fixtures in the antique shop, and Bo Peep and Woody kind of have a moment there. That apparently would have taken like thousands of hours of render time, if they didn't have their glorious render farm.
Left to its own devices.
Yeah. And so like very, very interesting special effects going on and stuff. And, technically speaking, this is a great film. Animation, of course, the animation quality is just absolute perfection. What, you would come to expect that from a Pixar film. There's just certain characters and certain plot points in the story that was like, I kind of just miss, like, I don't know. It's kind of the same as the old ones, but it's kind of not the same. And I don't know. Maybe I just was really resisting the concept of a fourth Toy Story film. Other people might argue, like, isn't it good that we're getting more of something that we love so much? And I'm more like, some things need to end. I'm not a huge fan of these constant reboots and remakes and sequels. But that's what Hollywood is all about now.
Right.
We're all fans.
The realism in this film, that very opening scene with the rain and just the grass, it looks real, and we've never seen this level of detail in a Pixar or at least a Toy Story film before. And the contrast between the characters that are definitely cartoony and the humans that are cartoony and just the landscaping and the environments are really cool to see. So major props to that. And I think that's one of the strong points. And especially if you watch Toy Story 1 and then you hop to this one, it's a stark difference. And it's just cool to see how much they've evolved over, 24 years.
Do you think that Bo Peep was too shiny? That's something
Yeah,
that
they really made her porcelain skin extra special, right?
yeah, this film actually established that she was porcelain. I thought that she was a Barbie doll. So plastic. But
Yeah,
she is porcelain as we see, actually.
I noticed that this time. I'm like, I'm not an animator, but how, or even someone who creates rigs and surfaces and textures, I'm like, how do you create a surface that is shiny? I started thinking about that. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I know if you how to paint it and color it, but I wouldn't tell you.
I've used RenderMan before. You literally drag and drop the porcelain shader preset onto the asset. I'm just kidding. People, if anyone from Pixar actually listens to this, they're like pulling their hair out. But they do have preset materials by now that are. It's about So. Index of refraction is a technical term for the physical way that light reflects and refracts off of a surface. And like industrial contexts, certain materials actually have a index of refraction that you can look up. So when I did some shader work we used RenderMan to do shader work for a short film that was produced by DreamWorks Animation, if you can follow all that. And so we used a different version of RenderMan, and we did like a rubber ducky, we did a tin can, we did a plastic bottle, and for all those materials, you just look up the index of refraction and you add it, and it's a parameter built into the RenderMan pipeline, and that's how you get certain reflection effects. But stuff like grit and dirt and unevenness in a reflection or on a surface, that's like a system of layered shaders that work together and are eventually rendered into one effect. But yeah, you can literally look up how shiny or how something shines from a technical standpoint online. It's like a physical property that we can quantify, which I thought was like the coolest part of that whole experience, was working with that DreamWorks crew. But yeah, RenderMan is an insanely powerful utility.
Cool. So something with Bo Peep I noticed is that in the opening scene, she has a bonnet on her head because she literally is a porcelain doll.
Yeah.
So how do you remove that without having her head?
Don't ask that, Morgan. Don't come for you. You know too much.
You know too much.
It doesn't
She's
make
figured it out.
sense, but because she ripped it off, she carved it off her head, and then found paint, and then repainted herself, and then buffed it out so she has hair with no bonnet. But I understand why they wanted to remove the bonnet. They give her this cool,
she's action
kind of
now.
vibe.
Yeah.
They give her a pantaloons. The skirt can be a skirt sometimes, and she's a little more feminine. It can be a cape sometimes. And I like that because it's to show that she's very active and she's not just this.
She gets down to business. She gets stuff done.
Lamp. Yeah. And she needs to be able to move. You can't do that in a skirt. So she's very creative. She comes up with this skunk mobile that transports them all around the carnival. She's a really fun character, and I like her, but she feels almost... She's a different character.
Oh, she's changed.
She's a V2 version of Bo Peep. Like she was very sweet and demure before, and now she's like sassy and very opinionated, which is great. People change, but it just didn't even feel like the same character almost.
That's interesting. Yeah, I thought I wouldn't like her character from the previews, but I actually ended up liking her in the movie.
Yeah.
She has her reasons for changing who she is, and she has this kind of tough, like, we're introduced to a toy who doesn't want to be a toy, and then we're introduced to a toy who doesn't want anything with kids anymore and just wants to live free and and kind of survive. And she has her reasons for it, and she is also sympathetic to Woody's dilemma. Which is fine. She's actually a pretty well-rounded character with like a ton of nuances and a ton of like reasons for who she is and stuff. So I actually ended up liking her a lot. And
yeah, she's less. Go ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, she's definitely less. She's less emotional than Woody. Just as a character in general, he's incredibly emotional. He is, everything is emotional. Everything is just, wears his heart on his sleeve. And she kind of just sees the reality like, hey, it's time, at the very beginning, I have a new kid now. I'm not Andy's kid. She's not attached the way that he has just, his whole soul and identity is attached to being a kid or to a kid.
Yeah.
And she kind of just sees the reality of it. And it's like, no, there's more to life than this. And I'm moving on to the next person. And then after that, she's like, well, I was kind of sick of being handed around. So I started my own life. So it's interesting that she's kind of created this life for herself as a toy, which you wouldn't think was possible. It's either the garbage or the attic after X number of years. And she's really prolonged her life to something that is very, fulfilling.
What are your guys' thoughts on Buzz Lightyear?
Oh, such a waste. They made him a bumbling buffoon.
Bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I kind of liked the inner voice subplot.
It was a funny gag.
It was a funny gag, but I think they should have reserved it till the end because everything keeps working out for him. Like it eventually maybe they're trying to say that his buttons are his inner voice or whatever. But then what's Woody's inner voice when he gets his voice box ripped out? But I know that's not the point. But yeah, they kind of relegated him to a different kind of character. They kind of tweaked him to be kind of a moron and stuff. What I'm really offended with is what they did with Jessie. Jessie has so much potential as a character, and she really had a breakout moment in Toy Story 2. But in Toy Story 3, she was a very significant voice of dissent to Woody's plan to go back into storage, which she, of course, is terrified of. And a lot of Toy Story 3 plays off of Woody's indifference to what the toys need versus what he thinks Andy needs. And so I thought that Jessie's probably one of the characters with the most potential, and they barely did anything with her. It's like she's totally capable. Like she can jump and run around. Like she's very energetic. She's very spunky. She has a very strong sense of what she needs to do, and she's very adventurous. Like, why didn't they use her more? I don't know. I feel like all these actors and actresses, because the cast was so big, had to do other things, but they were like, sure, I'll do a voice for the Toy Story film, but I don't know what Joan Cusack does these days. I wish they could have used Jessie more, but yeah, Buzz was kind of a disappointment.
They tried to give Jessie, she's okay in the end because she's a sheriff. She's the new head honcho in town, but not really.
King of
it's
Asgard.
Sally.
I mean,
Not
she is
Sally.
the new in charge of Andy's room
It's
now.
Dolly.
Oh, that's right. She still answers to Dolly. That's all right.
Dolly's the new Woody because she always was the Woody of Bonnie's room.
Yeah.
So they tried to make us feel good, like, oh yeah, a woman's in charge. But the woman already was in charge.
Erasing her.
And then the other woman isn't talking because, we don't have time for her.
I'm a guy, so I'll keep my mouth shut. But I even feel like Dolly's character was rewritten to put down Woody more because it was apparently really important in this film that Woody suffer a lot. And of course he's super high strung and probably deserves a lot of the suffering he goes through because he is kind of selfish and he has a lot of insecurities that he refuses to address. And it causes a lot of havoc, but I don't know. Lots of stuff going on, but there's a rescue mission inherent to the film because it wouldn't be a Toy Story film if a toy didn't get lost and needed to be found again. And that is Forky, who doesn't even know that he is lost, but he's just hanging out with Gabby, who is just waiting for Woody to come back for him. And so Bo Peep needs help, and she knows just who to ask. She goes to the pinball machine where there's a bunch of free living toys who are hiding from Gabby or whatever, and we were introduced to Duke Kaboom, the Canuck with all the luck.
So great.
Voiced by Keanu Reeves, who had a stellar year in 2019, John Wick 3 and Toy Story 4.
I honestly thought that was the best part of this whole thing.
Yes, I Canada.
Yes, I Canada.
No.
I wonder if there's a small subset of Canadians that took offense to all that and protested the film.
I'll have to ask my mom.
Yeah.
Former Canadian. She doesn't associate with being Canadian anymore.
Oh, just like me in California. I claim Texas, but
as you should.
But yeah, so what do y'all think about him? I thought he was pretty cool.
Oh, I loved him. I thought he was great. I thought every bit of his gag, his gag was really what saved the movies for me.
Mm-hmm. Although there's many reused plot points in this film.
Okay.
And he is one of them, which we have seen multiple times.
Oh yeah, he has his own tragic backstory.
The abandonment by a kid.
On Boxing
Day. In Toy
Day.
Story 2, it was Jessie. In Toy Story 3, it was Lotso. And in Toy Story 4, it is Duke Kaboom. And even in Toy Story 1, there is a slight abandonment with Woody, being pushed aside and not being so it's like, this is a common theme among toys. Like they just need a therapist because this is going to happen to you at one point in your life. It is inevitable. But yeah, he was really funny and I liked him. But other reused Toy Story plot points, I will say right now. So there is the you are a toy line.
Oh, that's right.
Essentially. With Forky helping him understand, which I feel we've talked about this in our very first episode 5, that every new toy would have Buzz syndrome, essentially, or maybe they don't, but he clearly does. He has trash syndrome. Okay, the other plot is purpose in a toy's life is to make a child happy. That is in quite a few of them.
That's right.
That's basically Woody's MO. Rescue mission, we saw that in Toy Story 2. Evil Dictator, we saw that in Toy Story 3 with Lotso.
Yeah.
So those are just a few. If you guys saw any others, let us know in the comments of this episode, rotoscopers.com/187. But I think for these reasons, Toy Story 4 didn't really feel very fresh to me. It just felt like been there, done that. We've kind of seen all these things. Yes, there were new elements here and there, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it was just kind of spread out a little too thin?
Yeah, I think there were too many concepts here that they were trying to do. And, they're introducing Forky and this existential crisis of him being trash and having to deal with him. And really, he's just a means to an end to get back to Bo Peep. And then we have the evil dictator because you got to have a villain always.
You got to have a bad toy who has...
Then you have her redemption, which she actually gets redeemed, unlike Lotso, but she's redeemed very quickly. She puts all this harm on all the toys in the antique shop. Bo Peep said for years that she'd kind of been this tyrant who owned the place. And then very quickly they're like, oh, you're good. We forgive you. Here, let's help you find someone. And I'm all about forgiveness, but it just didn't feel
but not
natural.
That quick.
Not that quick. Come on. You got to let him suffer. It just felt... They're like, all right, we got to wrap this up. So, and we want her to have a happy ending.
It's not necessarily that I feel like they have to suffer at all. I just feel like, I don't feel like she's truly repentant in any way. I don't feel like she
She didn't even realize that what she did was wrong.
And so it's like there's the phrase that always goes, wherever you go, there you are. So unless you change, everywhere you go, you're going to be the same person. You have to be the one that changes. And she doesn't change at all. And she is just somebody decided that it's okay. You've had it tough, therefore, okay. But it's like, what? You're a jerk. You're a dictator, and you are organ harvesting. What's going on here? Just saying.
She basically gets her way and doesn't have to pay any consequences for it.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about Ducky and Bunny.
Yeah,
voiced by Key
just
and
to
Peele.
give us.
So I'm conflicted about this character because they are like one character basically because they're attached to each other.
Yes, they have the zip tie.
They have the zip tie. Yeah. I love Key and Peele. I think they work really well together, and I enjoy watching their comedy shorts and stuff. And apparently, they did a ton of improv for this film. They basically didn't give them lines; they just told them what to say about the situation.
Nice.
And that's kind of what their character is. They're the funny character who make funny comments about what's going on and stuff. And I liked their plans that always involve attacking a human.
I did like that one. That was funny.
Those were those were needed moments.
And they actually put them in the previews, making audiences think that there was going to be some serious interaction between humans and toys, but it was just hypothetical. But so I like the concept of them, but in execution, they didn't really do much. That character didn't do much for me besides be there for comic relief. And like Morgan said, they kind of stray into throwaway character territory, but they do push certain characters into certain situations and get the plot going and stuff. But they are what they are. I thought they're pretty funny, I guess, but not hilarious. Anyway, I've seen funnier moments with Key and Peele, but not in Toy Story 4.
And they just weren't really memorable characters. I remember going to Target and all of the Ducky and Bunny merchandise was still there. And even the Ducky and Bunny signature collection, which those are the highest
super
quality
high fidelity to the
merch
movie
that you can get. It's probably $100. They were on clearance at Target
Sweet.
for $9.
Oh man.
And even then I was like, meh.
Even then,
No.
not worth my $10.
Oh well. And then I can't really think of, like, Mr. Pricklepants has like one line, you know?
Mhm.
There's some funny parts in the movie. I like when they were they disconnected the GPS. That poor dad.
Aw.
But they disconnected the GPS and started yelling at him and stuff. I
Yeah.
like that part. And there's some really, I'm a horror fan, so I really liked the creepy ventriloquist dummies who, like, they walk
Oof.
all weird and stuff,
The way their heads just
Yeah.
flop around.
and they're always looking at you and
Oof.
stuff. I thought that was really creepy, and they didn't really have any
Which
voice
also,
lines.
Little
they were-
legs.
They were abandoned by Gabby. Those were her henchmen, and she didn't even care. She didn't say goodbye. It was just
They
yeah, I
performed
used you
the
to get where I
sinister
needed.
operation, and that was all. Yeah, and then there was some cool. I got to see Combat Carls out in the playground and stuff. Do they still do that? Like, just leave toys out in the sandbox? If it's like a small
mean,
enough community, I guess.
Well, so yeah, initially I thought, okay, they just hang out in the sandbox and people always come around. But then it turns out that they're like traveling carnies at the end, and then they find, I don't know, maybe they changed their direction, but it seemed like, yeah, buses and kids come here all the time. But I'm like, I don't know any real life sandboxes and playgrounds where there's just like a plethora of toys that kids play with and then they
Without
leave them.
destroying them.
Either they get left behind on accident, or someone throws it in the trash, or someone takes it home and says, awesome, this is mine.
Yeah,
So,
lots
I
of
don't know.
unanswered questions.
Yeah, they tried. So let's talk about the songs, or one new song. Toy Story classic. You got to have that on your playlist. But we have the score, and the song was, well, there's another song that was in the credits. It was done by Randy Newman, and it's all about Forky, everyone's new favorite.
Oh, the
spork.
can't let you throw yourself
Yeah,
away.
I can't let you throw yourself
Yeah,
away. And
isn't that song about suicide? And it kind of like gives this weird dimension to Forky.
Oh, jeez.
yeah, I didn't love it. Like, it's catchy because it's Randy Newman, like boom, boom, boom. Do do do. I can't even hum it right now, but it's kind of a bop. It's
Yeah.
your classic Randy Newman, number. But it's not a Toy Story classic to me.
I enjoyed it while it was happening, but yeah, it was mostly just because it's one of those boppy type songs, but I can't sing it back to you.
I just felt bad for Woody during those sequences.
Well, all the effort that he was putting into for a piece of trash.
Maybe just
like,
give
hello,
Forky what he wants. Like, would
he needed to go back to version 1 Woody, where he was happy to let the intruder, find a way to go out the window.
revert back to your dictator self. Get them out of the way if they don't serve you.
Right. So he has come a long way, and that's good. He really cares about others other than himself. But yeah, could have saved himself a lot of trouble. Although in the end, he wouldn't have found Bo Peep. So
I don't know, man. I thought that in the
did they
end,
kiss? They don't kiss, right? They kind of, there's like a moment where you think they are, but there's no actual like toy on toy kissing.
No.
That was a horrible way to put it.
If they had an owner, they could do like Andy did and be like, "You saved him."
Yes. Yes.
And but anyway, they don't have a kid, so they have no chance. But I've kind of felt a lot of optimism for Woody and Bo Peep's relationship at the end of the film, but I don't know why we had to have a film about their relationship. Like, I don't know. The film introduced some really interesting complexities about how a toy may feel about kids and about their purpose. But besides exploring that, like, I don't know, I kind of prefer the original trilogy. But I mean, it's not to say that this film was just terrible, but I liked certain parts of it, and of course, it looks brilliant. Like, Toy Story's quality of animation and like render power can only go up from here, and it's an exciting thing to see. It just didn't blow me away.
So let's lead into the question, and I don't think we'll have much of a debate on this, but was Toy Story 4 needed in the Toy Story canon?
No, but it's nice to have. It's like, Miss Piggy. We weren't fishing for it, but we'll take it. It's It obviously did really well in the box office, and it's obviously pretty well loved by fans.
Everyone other than us.
I know we're such horrible people. Sorry, everyone, if you're looking for us to like geek out and
but we did that
be
on
super
all
fans of this
the 3
film.
movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So we actually asked this to our patrons. Rebecca says, my opinion, no. While I'm glad they realized they needed to fill in what happened to Bo Peep, I felt their version of feminism that her character portrayed was a little dated. Like, a girl doesn't have to run around in her knickers in order to show that she's empowered. Ooh, good point. In how they chose to portray her, it feels as though they're subtly implying how she used to look, aka more feminine, less tough, can't be a symbol of empowerment to young girls. Not to mention, Woody literally gives up his friends in order to pursue a relationship with Bo Peep. In real life relationships, that'd be a red flag. I thought the ending of Toy Story 3 was moving, beautiful, and as real to life as a story about toys can get. I'd have loved an award-winning Pixar short in place of this movie about toys tracking down Bo Peep's whereabouts using the toy soldier.
Bring her in,
That's
boys.
my 2 cents. And a whole lot more.
No, I get what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a thing about the whole dress versus pants thing. So
Mm-hmm.
she's running around. She's
You're a
basically an
man.
action
You
hero.
don't have an
Oh, that's
opinion.
right. I cannot talk about feminism, but this isn't really feminism. It's about the utility of wearing pants versus a dress that could easily snag on things when she's obviously like a high-flying adventurous type now. So maybe that's why she ditches the skirt for the pants sometimes.
I mean, and also it's nice to have pockets.
Agreed.
And I'm sure that her dress was not one of the cool ones that had pockets. So there you go.
Rachel says, I think so. Otherwise, Woody would just be stuck in the cycle of played with and abandoned. We need a place for him to end happily. Toy Story 3. Good. Okay. Toy Story 3's good ending for Andy, but we needed the ending for Woody, in my opinion. I think Woody, in a way, went off to college in Toy Story 4, just like Andy did in Toy Story 3. Ooh, great analogy.
That is a good analogy.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
But here's the thing.
Woody has the cycle of being played with and abandoned. How about every other toy in existence? That it's just like the circle of life for toys is that your child grows up and then you're done and you're put under the bed or you're put on the shelf or you're put in the attic, unless you're lucky where you have like a grandma who holds on to all of her toys or a mom who holds on to her toys for her kids and they get played with again. But like, that's just the facts of life for all these guys. So
yeah,
I don't know what to tell you about all the, Jesse and Ham and Rex. It's coming.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
I do appreciate that Rachel was able to find a positive to our episode of this movie,
right.
Because a majority of the people I'm looking at, the patrons, were not the biggest fans, and you had a lot of people saying like their question or their answers ranged from to no, like
right.
no.
Yeah, and we won't have time to read all of these, but this was probably our most responded patron Roto Nation question that we've had, because people have thoughts on this film, and it is divisive on whether you like it or not. And then, like, we look at it, Rotten Tomatoes, 97%. Like, obviously, people like it enough. Like, the Rotten Tomatoes thing is it's basically a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Like, was it good or not? So if you like force me, I'm going to do a thumbs down. I would be one of the thumbs downs. But I think majority of people, even though they didn't necessarily love it, like they're going to probably give it a thumbs up, even though there's questions as to whether it needed to happen or not. So, yeah. Lauren is another pro Toy Story 4. She says, I love Toy Story 4. It's heartfelt, action-packed, funny, and relatable. It made me cry several times. Same with you, girl. Duke Kaboom is my new favorite character. Pixar really portrayed PTSD accurately and with great respect. To answer your question, yes, it was needed.
Okay, Lauren. It's just really funny. Like, you have Daniel who's here like, no.
17 O's.
Yeah. Angela's like, I would say no. And then Josella, it was not necessary. Ryan says no. Jack Ong says, I guess so.
Right. That's like the meh category.
Yeah. Like, so it's really interesting to see, like, This obviously was not up to the standard of the trilogy, but hey,
it's Toy Story.
It's
What's
a
not
Toy
to
Story.
love? Yeah.
Except we didn't. It's fine. All right, let's moving on. All right. Here we go from Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is my very second time sending in a voicemail. My first was on your Tangled the Series show, and so I'm kind of excited about that. This would be for your Toy Story 4 show, if you haven't recorded that yet. I don't go to movie theaters too often, but I did go to see this, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think Toy Story needed a fourth movie, but after I saw it, I felt that it actually provided a much better ending for this franchise than Toy Story 3 did, and I liked it better than Toy Story 3 also, so that was good. Though not quite as much as I did Toy Story 2, but for me that's a very high bar to clear. I really liked having Bo Peep come back, especially with a new worldview, which put her at odds with Woody, based on what they both thought a toy's role in life was. I thought that set up a really interesting conflict. And I liked the ending. I felt that, looking at how the story was going, it couldn't have ended any other way. I didn't like it quite as much as I liked Frozen 2, which came out the same year, but I am a Frozen girl through and through, so no surprise there. I also saw the Lamplife short on Disney+, and I thought that was also really fun. That's all for now. Thank you so much for doing this podcast. It is just so much fun.
Woo!
Thank you so much, Melissa. I forgot about the Lamplight short. So that is a short that's on Disney+. Definitely go check it out. It gives a little bit more about Bo Peep as her journey over the years being a little lamp accessory, I guess you will.
Cool. All right, and the next one is from Bethany.
Hey guys, it's Bethany, and I'm here to talk about Toy Story 4. Oh, Toy Story 4. The movie we didn't want or ask for, but we got it anyway. So,
Preach, sister.
Where to start with this movie? Like I said, I don't know anybody who was excited about this movie coming out. It was more just like, okay, I guess we're doing this again, because even though we ended it at 3, we didn't really end it. So I did go see it in the theater, and I didn't think it was awful. I had some moments, it did have some genuinely funny moments. And of course, the moment with Gabby and where she gets to, be a toy and be there for a kid, of course, in Pixar form, makes you get misty and feel all the feelings. But otherwise, the entire movie is not awful, but nobody needed it. This was not a story that had to be told. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't painful to watch. It was fine. I liked it more than Incredibles 2. Don't even get me started. But yeah, it just felt like a money grab to me. Let's do one more Toy Story because we know everybody will come. And it just was underwhelming. And I didn't hate it when I first watched it, probably because my expectations were just that low. But on any kind of rewatch, it's just, there's no desire to watch it again. There are better sequels out there that are worth rewatching, but Toy Story 4 is not it. And I feel like the story wasn't horrible, but I felt like the story could have been done, change a few details, and it could have just been a standalone movie with different characters. I didn't feel like this was a story that had to be told with the Toy Story characters. And at the end, with Woody kind of going off and doing his own thing, it did not seem like something Woody would do. So it felt like a little bit of a betrayal of his character. It just didn't feel genuine. The whole character of Bo Peep wasn't bad, but I mean, did I really need to see what happened to her? No, I really didn't. I was not that invested. So yeah, it keeps coming back to nobody needed this. Nobody really wanted this. Was it painful? Did I want to stab my eyes out? No, but nobody needed this. So there you go.
There we go.
Bethany is my sister, traded at birth or something. I see her and I'm like, yes.
No, she had some really good points that I think aligned with what all of us thought. unfortunately, we did not have anyone who was positive on this film on the podcast to provide, the opposite perspective. But we did have Melissa in the voicemails, so thank you for that.
That's true.
Hello, Rotoscopers. Esther is back, and I just want to thank you so much for reviewing Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I've been going through some nostalgic shows and movies and thinking, oh, wow, some of the stuff really holds up and it looks amazing years later. By the way, I want to add, if the Mafia doesn't get the young lovers, then the iceberg will. If you ever have a nerdy couch discussion, maybe you can share some of your favorite episodes from the animated series. I know some of mine are Almost Got 'Em, the episode with Bane, Birds of a Feather, and Robin's Reckoning. That's a 2-parter origin story for Robin. I think that one got an Emmy. And speaking of Robin, maybe, if you're not too busy reviewing animated movies, you could do Teen Titans Season 1. I think that's a really cool, different take on Robin's character because it's in such a different world from the dark Gotham noir look. And because Batman is nowhere to be seen. So, who is Robin when he's in the role of leader of his team? So I hope you are continuing to have an awesome summer. Bye, and thanks again.
Whoop, whoop, Esther. I love whenever Esther leaves voicemails. And it was our pleasure to do Mask of the Phantasm, which was really fun to go back. I have not rewatched Batman the Animated Series for such a long time. I couldn't even tell you favorite episodes, to be honest. So maybe we'll have to dive back into the Wayback Machine and find a few so we can talk about them.
I did see Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Which is not the same, but it kind of is. And I thought it was funny. I took my nieces and they really liked it too. So I approve.
Nice.
Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Teen Titans is great. Next up, we have Luke.
Hey, Morgan, Mason, and Chelsea. This is Luke leaving my thoughts on Toy Story 4. I love Pixar. Pixar's great. And as we all know, Pixar loves to play with people's emotions throughout their films. But to me, this movie was a roller coaster of emotions when it was still in its production phase. I'm probably not the only one when I say that I was confused when I heard that Toy Story 4 was in production, because in my mind, the way Pixar ended Toy Story 3 with Andy giving away his toys was the perfect ending to the series. It was satisfying emotionally, and I was just thankful that I was able to be a part of the journey. So I was concerned when the 4th film was announced, but Pixar displayed such confidence in their team of film creators that my worries were put to rest. I trusted that Pixar wouldn't make another movie if they weren't going to add something to the franchise. But I'm sad to say that I walked out of the theater a little disappointed. This new conclusion just wasn't satisfying for me. Even though Woody had the motivation for leaving Bonnie, I still felt like it turned the heart of the franchise on its head, because in Toy Story we were always told that the toys needed to be there for their kid, but then Woody just left. On its own, it might have been a pretty good movie, but the 3 that came out before it were basically perfect, so Toy Story 4 wasn't able to reach the standards set for it. It didn't have the substance I was looking for, but it still had its moments and was a beautiful film, so I'll rate it 3 stars. I look forward to the next podcast. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that's something we didn't really hit on that actually really, really bothered me, is that a very solid piece of lore, I guess, for the Toy Story universe is that your number one job as a toy is to be there for your kid.
Yeah.
Toys are for the kids. Toys are for the kids. And that's especially important to Woody. And then that's his number one North Star guiding light in his life. His main belief and principle is in this, and he just abandons it, as Luke said, in the end for Bo Peep, which is fine, but it seems like, well, what was the point of all the other movies? And yes, they're going to be there for other kids, but it's not the one, If that's the case, why don't they just go back to Andy's college dorm room and hang out on the shelf for a little bit, so at least he can be back for the one, his attachment to Andy was so much better. But yeah, hey, we're already an hour plus into this podcast. You know my thoughts on the film, so I'll leave it there.
Right.
I can't let you throw yourself away. I can't let you. can't let you throw yourself away. Don't you want to see the sun come up each morning? Don't you want to see the sun go down each day?
So I wouldn't go so far as to say this was like a cash grab.
Really? Come
Really?
on. Everyone thought that as soon as it was announced. Everyone said it's the perfect trilogy.
I think that a cash
There's
grab,
no need for more.
I think that a cash grab was a reason. I think that one of the reasons was Mo money. But I think they did it in a very thoughtful way. Like they obviously tried to deliver an interesting story, and Pixar is supposed to all be about these strong stories. And so like I believe that they thought that it was a strong story, and maybe it's a strong story. It just wasn't the story that I really was interested in watching. So, like I said at the beginning, there was a big hurdle, and it was a hard sell for me, and I think it just kind of fell kind of flat. If I was to rate this, it would be probably three stars. I'm usually 3 stars is fine. Like people should go and see it. Like I'm not going to try to be like nobody should see this, or like this film doesn't deserve to exist, but. You can watch it and decide for yourself. It just didn't really work for me.
All right, Chelsea, what would you rate this
Why
film?
do you give it to me? Ugh. Like, there's a part of me that would like to give this 2 stars just because I hated the antagonist, and I hated how that whole thing worked out because I just felt like it wasn't true. And I also felt like several of the characters were V2, version 2 of this, like in an alternate dimension type thing. Like the fact, like going in and watching it again, like, okay, the first time I ever watched this, I actually gave it a pretty decent score. And I wasn't nearly as negative about it. If you go on and you look at some of my the video I believe that I did on Rotoscope on the YouTube channel, I believe I was I don't remember what I gave it, but it was probably like 3 to 4, maybe. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it though. And it was like, okay, all right. It wasn't terrible, but I wasn't really a fan. It was just kind of weird. Okay. But then going in and watching it this time, I was like, ew, no, ew. So I'm like, maybe it was just a bad day. It could be just a bad day. Let's just say, okay, I'll say 3 as well, because 3 is like a low one for me in general. So we'll go with that.
Man, are we going to have another consensus? People are going to be like, what's the point of listening to this podcast? They all have the same opinion.
Okay, then I'm going to go for 2. 2 stars from me.
Okay,
we disagree with that, Chelsea. There's our dynamism.
Well, I'm going to go right in between that. And I cannot believe that I'm giving a Pixar film, let alone a Toy Story film, a 2.5 stars. But that's right smack dab in the middle. I mean, 2.5 is not great, But I just really struggled with this film overall. There's a lot of the characters, and they're not true to a lot of the characters are not true to themselves as we've been presented over 3 different films in the trilogy and now quadrilogy, if you will. And it really bothered me. And like I said with Gabby, that is a moral and a lesson that I really don't agree with. And I don't like the way that it was handled. I think it could have been done better. But on the positive side, every single time I see this film, I cry. So Pixar knows how to hit that emotional button with me. That very opening scene where Bo goes away, and then that montage scene every single freaking time. I have to make sure no one is around so I don't look like a bumbling idiot crying over a Toy Story scene of Andy playing with his toys. It's very sentimental. And then the end, I choke up as well when the fellowship is departing. But Forky does not do it for me as a character. I feel like he's introduced just to introduce a new character and have a new idea of existential crisis for a toy, which we kind of already saw that in the first film. And it's resolved so quickly. Like all of these things that they try to explore, they resolve very quickly or pretty neatly, I guess I will say. So I struggle whenever this movie comes on. My kids occasionally will put it on, but again, they only get about 20, 30 minutes into it before they, go start playing with some toys. And likewise, I'm not going to sit there and watch it. I turn it off immediately because it's just not great. But the highlights really are Bo Peep. I like that we got to see more of her. The beginning scene with Andy, I love. And yeah, so I've talked about that at length. So 2.5 stars.
Own it.
2.5 stars.
There you go.
All right. So if you have a voicemail, be sure to send us a voicemail at rotoscopers.com/voicemails or give us a call at 406-646-6575. Or we are in the modern day and age now. You can just record a voice memo on your phone and send it to contact@rotoscopers.com with the subject line of what you were talking about, what movie you were reviewing, and we'll be sure to do our best to play them on the show. So thank you, everybody who sent in voicemails. Now, before we wrap it up, it's time for Mason Reviews segment where he reviews one of our 5-star reviews. So thank you so much to MacGyver Jones, who left this on Apple Podcasts. So he requested that this review be done in Anton Ego's voice. So take it away, Mason.
Anton Ego's voice. So let's see. I have listened to it through much of my life. I have memories of listening while riding the bus and through every car ride. All of middle and high school and de-stressing before performing in theater. I have found so many new animated films to watch and love. I don't know any of you personally, but after feeling like I'm sitting in with you guys on nerdy couch discussions, I feel like you're my friends and I really love you guys. P.S. I will never forget the special performance at the end of The Swan Princess or the Thunder Tube. Oh, remember that thing?
Yes.
Oh, is that it?
Oh, it cut out, Chelsea.
It was too extreme for the recording.
I really thought the Thunder Tube was going to make an appearance when Mason said, "I'm back" last episode, but
I did.
Well, I didn't hear it.
Oh, I didn't hear it either.
And
Maybe
I will be putting it in.
I'm sorry if we didn't react to the Thunder Tube. We honestly didn't hear it.
I did, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
I didn't hear it.
It probably
I think it doesn't pick up on the recording for some reason, but as long as it's on your side, that's good enough. So thank you, MacGyver Jones. That was an awesome 5-star review. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Animation Addicts podcast. We had a great time back together talking about Toy Story 4. Let us know your thoughts by leaving us a comment at rotoscopers.com/187. I have a feeling, since 97% of critics liked this film, that there's more of the audience that likes this film as well. So let us know your thoughts. And our next episode is actually going to be heading to Japan. We are going to be reviewing Kiki's Delivery Service with one of our platinum patrons.
That's a good one.
With Rebecca, who you might have heard a little earlier in this episode. So we are going to dive into her. One of the perks of being a patron at that level is that you get to join us on an episode. If you would like to support the show and be on a future episode, then check out rotoscopers.com/patron. And that's all we have for today. Until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers.
All right, let's take it away. Let's dive into Toy Story 4.
Soy tu amigo fiel. Oh, let's do this.
Let's do it. Okay.
I do know
because I think of Brave with Brenda Chapman.
Oh, that's right. Wait,
maybe she was just associated with Story. I'm gonna go to.
Watch the movie again, and then go to the credits.
Let me just watch it really fast.
Come on, faster! You're supposed to be a super fast computer. Why are you going so slow?
Ride like the wind, bullseye.
Sometimes she just wants to hang out and play and walk around the house. And sometimes,
she's walking, huh?
Well, no, we walk her around the house. That's my girl walking at less than 3 months.
I mean, you were talking about how she's an overachiever.
Yeah, that's true. Well, she is. We are expecting her to be an overachiever. It'd be as creepy as seeing a ventriloquist dummy walk around.
Oh.
Oh, this movie has some scary parts, sinister, kind of scary, creepy parts to it.
It really does.
Save it for the podcast. Save it for the podcast.
But I can't.
I have so many things to say about this film. Actually, I don't have much.
It's overflowing.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.